The single blazing star tore across the night sky above the American West. Some claim it was a falling comet. Others insisted it was a fireball meant to herald the end of days. In truth, it was a spaceship, a vessel from a distant world, careening toward a fate unknown. By dawn, its fiery trail had vanished, leaving little more than a plume of dust out on the windswept plains. It crashed near a makeshift camp of the Pawnee, a tribe intimately woven into the land. The elders, guided by a vision of a great hawk, discovered the wreckage in a shallow canyon. Inside the vessel lay a small boy, swaddled in blankets unknown to any loom on earth. They took him in, naming him Cal, believing him a gift from the spirits, a being of prophecy. And so began the legend of the frontier's mightiest guardian. Cal grew up in the Pawnee camp, nurtured by tribal wisdom and a sense of harmony with nature. As he matured, it became clear he was no ordinary child. His strength was uncanny. He could lift fallen trees that other braves struggled to drag. His vision was as sharp as the hawk that had foretold his arrival, and his speed rivaled the swiftest horses on the plains. In time, though, the Pawnee recognized that while Cal was destined to do good, trouble would stalk him. The West had become a land of lawless men, outlaws and opportunists. His adoptive parents, Painted Hawk and Soaring Fawn, prayed that Cal would use his gifts to shield the innocent. Yet, they worried what might happen if outsiders learned of his powers. When the boy was old enough to walk his own path, Painted Hawk spoke over the campfire. "Ride between worlds, son. Protect both. Harm none." Heeding that call, Cal ventured out to discover the frontier beyond his tribe. He traveled by horse and foot, wandering dusty trails and small-town streets. Over time, he learned English, adopting the name Clark Kente in a faint nod to the few letters that remained on the side of the strange vessel that brought him to Earth. He discovered that not all frontier folk were villainous. Many simply strove to make an honest living in harsh lands. Settlers built ranches, farmers plowed fields in stony soil, and families dreamed of building a better tomorrow. But gold rush mania gripped the land, and greed attracted men with black hearts. Stagecoach robberies, bandit raids, and ruthless gunfights were daily occurrences. Clark soon found that his sense of justice boiled over at the sight of cruelty. Whenever he came upon outlaws terrorizing townsfolk, he intervened, using his impossible strength and near invulnerability to defend the innocent. Rumors spread of a ghostly rider who appeared from nowhere, wearing a long, wind-torn duster and a broad-brimmed hat that shadowed kind yet piercing eyes. Folks began calling him the Lone Protector, though another name took root too, Superman. Fate led Clark to a scrappy town called Red Gulch, a mining outpost sprouting up near a new gold vein. Red Gulch was a place of extremes, joyful prospectors who struck pay dirt, and desperate souls who found only gravel. Saloons, gambling halls, and makeshift hotels lined the single dusty street. Amid this chaos, a bright-eyed and fearless newspaper correspondent named Louisa Lou Lane arrived. Lou Lane worked for the Daily Tribune, a press outfit based in a bigger city back east, intent on covering the gold rush stories and the building of the transcontinental railroad that was inching westward. No one quite expected that a young woman could ride alone across the desert without fear, but Lou carried herself with confidence. She wore practical riding skirts, a leather vest, and a wide belt that held all her notepads, quills, and a small derringer for protection. If words failed, she would rely on steel. Lou quickly learned of rumors about an impossible man who could outrace steam locomotives and catch bullets in his bare hands. When she arrived in Red Gulch, townsfolk told her breathless stories of how he routed bandits without firing a single shot. A star pinned to his dusty coat identified him as some form of itinerant lawman, though no one seemed to know for whom he worked. Intrigued, Lou resolved to discover this mythic figure's true identity. She took up lodging in a converted storehouse that doubled as the local newspaper office, working by lamplight on exposés of the rail company's swindle of small landowners. Little did she suspect how deeply she would be drawn into this stranger's orbit. Red Gulch was also in the crosshairs of Alexander Lex Luthor, a ruthless railroad baron with a mind sharper than any spur and a heart as cold as the desert nights. Tall and imposing, Luthor wore custom-tailored frock coats of the finest black silk. Despite the scorching heat of the frontier, he insisted on high collars and polished boots, a statement of his wealth and superiority. He had staked his claim in the West's future, forging deals with every unscrupulous official and sheriff he could bribe. His ambition knew no bounds, and he saw the Transcontinental Railroad not just as a means of transport, but as an instrument of power and dominion. He also had a curious fascination with strange tales from the frontier. Whispers of an alien craft had reached his ears. For reasons unknown to everyone else, Luthor hunted for shards of sky metal, rumored to have landed with that fiery comet years ago. Luthor believed that harnessing the otherworldly rock's properties would gift him unstoppable power and possibly bring that unknown flying man to his knees. Clark Kente arrived in Red Gulch one evening as the sun painted the horizon in swaths of orange. His horse, Spirit, was worn from the journey, and the local stable offered a few flakes of hay in exchange for a silver coin. Tipping his hat low, Clark walked into the local saloon, only to find a frightened hush had settled. He quickly spotted a group of outlaws in the corner, brandishing revolvers and menacing the barkeep. "We're not asking again," one thug hissed. "We want half the gold takings from that new claim outside town." The barkeep stammered. "There's no gold left, I swear." Clark could hear the man's heartbeat pounding. He stepped forward. "How about you leave that man alone, friend?" Clark said in a calm, firm tone. The outlaws sneered at the tall stranger in his desert-worn coat. One swung a revolver around. Shots rang out. Women screamed and men dived for cover. Yet when the smoke cleared, there stood Clark, calmly dusting off his chest, the bullets flattened and dropping to the floor. The ringleader's jaw fell open. Before the outlaw could fire again, Clark rushed forward, faster than any eye could follow, disarming each bandit in a blur. He held them at bay until the local deputy, one James Jimmy Olson, a freckle-faced kid with more guts than experience, arrived. Jimmy stared wide-eyed at the man who had done more in seconds than the entire territorial militia might do in a day. It wasn't the first time Clark's feats had left a crowd speechless, nor would it be the last.